Hey, good evening. Welcome in. Gabe DeArmond here, State of the Tigers, PowerMizzou.com. It is Monday night. That means we're going to hang out with you for about an hour, impart all of the wisdom we have. And if we have no wisdom, make some stuff up. Talking Mizzou sports, Cody Goodwin will be along in a minute. Drew King, second half of the show, talking Mizzou football and basketball with you tonight. Brought to you as we are every single Monday by our friend James Carlton, State Farm Insurance in Webster Groves, Missouri. If you live in Kansas, Illinois, or Missouri, you get in touch with James at carltoninsurance.net or at 314 961 4800. I've said his phone number enough. It's the only one I know other than mine, my wife, and maybe my children's by heart. Once again, 314 961 4800. Get in touch with James. Talk about insurance, get a quote, tell them you heard about it here on PowerMizzou.com. We're going to bring Cody Goodwin onto the screen now. Cody, no more games to talk about, but at least we can talk about contract and how much money Eli Drinkwitz is going to make now.
We have a contract to talk about. We got a bowl game that we can talk about. We have a college football playoff if we want to talk about that. We have a lawsuit that we can talk about. Like, you sent me a text and said that, like, this sport is never boring. And boy, howdy, is that true. Like, there's a lot going on. We got people in the comments calling us idiots. Shout out to you guys. Like, we got a lot we got to discuss, man. Where do you want to start?
Every week I forget to start this show. Hey, idiots. I'm going to remember eventually, but I haven't remembered yet. All right. Let's in comments, questions, all that in the chat. Scott Fitz, see your super chat. We'll get to it. Let's start with the Drinkwitz contract. We got it today. It's the new part. I mean, I don't know that there was anything that like fans were really waiting on there. We knew the initial terms the day it was signed. I think Thanksgiving Day. Nothing super different or new to me, other than they said, "Hey, if he wins 8 games, we're gonna auto renew it for a year."
Yeah, the automatic extension trigger I thought was interesting. If Missouri wins 8 regular season games in any season during the life of this new contract, which goes through 2031, automatically renews for another year, and he gets a $200,000 pay bump on that, additional year. So I thought that was interesting. I think also key to note there, it's got to be 8 regular season games. So if they go 7-5 and win a bowl game, the automatic extension is not triggered. It has to be 8 regular season bowl games. So that was interesting. Otherwise, yeah, we got some key figures for his base salary, for the incentives, the support staff and assistant coach's salary pool jumped from 12 million to 16 million budget wise. So, which we believe, we're not 100% sure on this, but we believe that's in the upper half of the SEC. So at least that's kind of the ballpark that we know about. We got some buyout information, both if Drink leaves and if he gets fired. And then we have, I know that this was one thing that you and I were kind of curious. Is this going to be in the contract? Is there going to be language that kind of touches on this? But we got some NIL/rev share adjacent language. There are no hard numbers that came with that, but it was basically a paragraph of legalese that stated Missouri's going to do everything in their power to stay competitive when it comes to, NIL efforts so far as they can do that, as well as revenue sharing efforts. So, I mean, we put that on the board in a few different places. People can go look at it. I would like to, pat Clint Dowdle on the back for however many billable hours it took to construct that paragraph of legalese, just to basically say a whole lot of, I don't want to say nothing, but without hard numbers, it's kind of hard to really make a lot of sense of it. But that was included in the contract as well. And that's probably as close as we got to any NIL rev share talk. But
yeah, like you can't put numbers in the contract because like Drinkwitz said, like you can promise that you can guarantee things, but it doesn't mean anything. So basically that paragraph in the contract equated to me to, hey, we'll do our best. I mean, that was what that contract said.
Yeah, that's, and it's, like Missouri's got to a full-hearted effort to make sure that Missouri and Drinkwitz stay competitive, right? But like what that means, we just don't know. Right. And it just comes back to the whole NIL rev share thing. Like we don't know these hard numbers. So it's hard to be like, yeah, they're going to get this percentage or this amount of money. And that's just that continues to be the gray area of college sports.
Right. And the thing is, like people had said, hey, they want to be top 10 in the country or top 4 in the SEC. That's an unknowable number. Like I specifically asked Laird Veach today, I said, all these numbers come out. What's true? He goes, we'd all love to know what's true. Like he doesn't know what's true. He doesn't know what other schools are paying or promising. They don't know what's going to get through this, the CSC and the clearinghouse and all that. So anybody that says, hey, they're top 5 in the country, well, they could be top 5 in the country today and not tomorrow, but also nobody knows. Like those people are lying to you. So yeah, the 8 wins thing. The interesting part, I hadn't really thought about it until I was replying to somebody on social media. The interesting part of that is what 8-4 guarantees you is you have had a winning record in SEC play. With the 9-game schedule, it means you've at least gone 5-4 in conference games, and I think that is some people will look at that and go, why are you rewarding 8 wins? Well, I'll tell you why. It's the guarantee we're not going to be Florida. We're not going to fire you for doing pretty well but not elite. We're not going to cycle through these guys who win SEC divisions and 2 years later go 7-5 and you're gone. I think it's just an assurance that, like, look, Eli Drinkwitz had the negotiating power here, right? I mean, Eli Drinkwitz had all the leverage. So Missouri had to give him some things. And I think one of those things is an assurance that, yeah, as long as you're doing pretty well, we're going to keep you around.
Yeah. And that was another thing that Veach said during our conversation with him, that he preached the idea of stability and making sure that there was alignment. And just that was something obviously Drink had spoken a lot about when it came to, hey, like, what's a good college football job? What makes it better now than maybe it was 5-10 years ago, whatever the case. And he continually preached alignment. And that was something that Veach really hammered home. Just they want that stability. They want to be able to know what they're getting, especially with, the flurry of coaching moves that we saw over the last week. And I mean, really, you think about the way that Lane kind of handled his deal over the last month. Missouri feels pretty good. Like, yes, yes, Drink had a lot of leverage when it came to this contract and the way that it was drawn up. But 1, I think it was well earned. And 2, I think Missouri was right to basically hand him exactly what he wanted and what he needed, or what he feels like he needs in order to keep Missouri competitive. So looking at this contract, it makes a lot of sense to me on both sides. Yeah. So I'm not sure that there's really a whole lot to complain about whether you're Drink or Missouri.
Right. I know the instant reaction is, well, we're paying him $11 million. Yes, that's what they make now. It just is. I don't know what to tell you. We should all be college football coaches. It would be amazing and the main reason is because when you get fired, oh man, that's the best part of it all. And so the buyout numbers, and you guys, I know I'm going to explain this to somebody else tomorrow, and to somebody else the day after that, and to somebody else the day after that. There are 2 buyouts in a contract. One is the buyout if Missouri fires him. The other is the buyout if he leaves for another job. If Missouri fires him, the easy way to explain this is he gets 80% of the remaining money on the contract. That is currently $44.425 million if Missouri were to fire him before next December 1st. And now the interesting part is, if he wins 8 games, then that renews, and that's still 44.425. It's actually a little higher because his salary goes up every year. So it would be like 44.565 or something like that. So the buyout for firing him actually goes up every year. It goes down, obviously, every year, but it goes up every time he wins 8 games. His buyout, if he leaves for another job, until next December 1st, is $5 million. After that, it drops to $4 million. That resets every year, but will never be higher than $4 million after next December 1st. Again, that is the cost of doing business. That is how all these contracts are structured. It cost LSU $4 million to hire Lane Kiffin. That's just how it works.
Yeah, that's pretty standard, I think, across college football. So yeah, that's, we got those numbers. All of those are online at Power Mizzou. We wrote a story that kind of detailed it. You and I have been on the board with other specific things that we've read through the contract. So go check it out, guys. It's readily available online if you'd like to go read all the legalese and maybe, find some stuff that we missed. But I think we got all the most important things up on the board if you guys haven't checked it already.
Yeah, and reading numbers to you guys is not the most exciting thing. It's there if you want to see it. More number. Let's talk about the other number though that's going around this week: $390,000. That's what Georgia wants from Damon Wilson. Look, I'm not a lawyer. I don't really think Georgia is going to get $390,000 from Damon Wilson. I don't even think Georgia expects to get $390,000 from Damon Wilson. If you missed it, basically he signed some sort of term sheet or something for an NIL deal that was in essence worth $500,000. He got one payment, he entered the portal, and Georgia now says he owes them the rest. I don't know, man. I know legal stuff is sometimes stupid and doesn't always use common sense, but common sense tells me he does not actually owe them $390,000.
No. And I think it's important to note here that Georgia filed suit to basically force arbitration, which basically means they want to get into a room to basically hash this out. And my guess is that if they're able to do that and Georgia is successful, they will get the $30,000 back plus legal fees, if that. Yep. There's a lot of interesting branches off this, and I don't know exactly where we want to go with it, but I think it's interesting because like in the suit that we were able to get, I guess that you were able to get last Friday, it did not include the contract. It included the term sheet. And so the term sheet more often than not outlines what is in another contract that is to be signed. And in this particular term sheet, it said like there is a contract to be signed about this. And so what does that mean for this? I'm not a lawyer. So there's that. I think there's also the idea that this, I think Georgia is looking in part to maybe make an example out of Wilson. And I think a lot of it kind of comes back to the whole, players are moving freely about, right? They're just kind of the transfer portal. They're allowed to leave basically every year if they want to. There are players that have done that have left Missouri. There are players that have done that have come to Missouri, right? Like Kevin Coleman Jr. This is his fourth team in 4 years, right? Like they're just kind of freely moving about. And I think Georgia is more doing this, at least if I'm reading it properly, as a way to say, you guys need to stop doing that. That seems to effectively be the goal of what Georgia is trying to do here, which I think can be precedent setting. And I don't know that I necessarily disagree with Georgia for wanting to maybe make that example. They just so happen to be doing it with Missouri's star pass rusher, which is why we're all wrapped up into this. So they're basically saying like, hey man, you signed a contract, and we haven't necessarily seen the contract. We've only seen the term sheet. So that's something that's, later down the line, if we do see it, something that I think we need to see. But it's also, Georgia's just basically saying like, hey, you signed a contract, live up to the deal of the contract or pay us back, or, like have better representation, this, that, and the next. And I'm curious to see where it goes, because it seems like Wilson's camp is forming a countersuit, or at least there will be a move.
A response.
Yeah. There will be some sort of response. Right. And like Wilson's lawyer gave you the statement last week about how, he basically said, like, I'm not sure Georgia wants to go to discovery, right? Like that might be me stepping a little bit, but that seemed to be what they were implying with their statement. And so there's a lot of interesting branches that are off this tree about like what this means, who's ultimately going to win, what's Georgia's ultimate goal, what are they going to get out of Damon Wilson, what did Wilson know? I mean, another question too is like, now I'm just kind of going off on a tangent. Like, did Missouri or Missouri's NIL or whatever the case may be, did they pay him enough to pay Georgia back? Right. Because I know that we've heard Drinkwitz talk about contracts and how, if players freely move, like the buyout for those contracts comes from the opposing team's revenue sharing or, potentially NIL or whatever that, like, schools have to not only pay for the athlete, but pay to get the athlete out of their contracts with previous schools. So, how much of that was involved here? Like, there's a lot of, I think, interesting little rabbit holes that we could go down with this. So I'm going to stop rambling. Where do you kind of fall on this? What interests you the most?
So there were two interesting things. First of all, Jimmy Trimble's asking the question. There was a tweet out there that resurfaced, and I had forgotten this part of it. But when Damon was going through the recruiting process, after I saw the tweet, it reminded me, like, there was talk, hey, there's a pretty hefty buyout to Georgia here, and somebody's going to have to pay him a little bit of extra money. And the number out there was about 300 or 400,000. So that was obviously pretty accurate reporting. Somebody's going to have to pay him that money, that extra money, to get out of the Georgia deal. Now, do I know exactly what Missouri paid him? No. I can relatively confidently say that Missouri paid him enough that he does at least have $400,000 he could give Georgia. Now, how much would that leave him? Does he want to do it? What was their agreement with him? I don't know. But here's the interesting part. Like, the way Drinkwitz talked last week was that money comes out of, like, he kind of intimated, hey, when Williams Nwaneri goes to Nebraska, Nebraska pays us that money. Well, that's not the case here, because I asked Laird Beach today, I said, do you guys have any comment or involvement in what's going on with Damon Wilson? And here's his whole answer, guys. No. That was it. That's all he said. And it was made very clear to us, this is not a Missouri deal. This is a Damon Wilson deal. So, now, again, did they pay him that money last December or whenever he got here and say, okay, now X amount of that has to go to Georgia? And he just didn't do it. Maybe, I don't know. But Missouri certainly is not in, like, Georgia is not suing Missouri. Missouri is not involved in paying Georgia at this point. So I think Drinkwitz maybe kind of misspoke last week when he's saying that money comes out of the other school's revenue share, unless he just means, hey, that school had to give that kid extra money, which that kid then turned around and gave to us, which is certainly possible.
Yeah, and it could be different, because Damon Wilson has been in college for 3 years now, right? So he started, he signed the term sheet that we read is he signed it with the Classic City Collective, which was Georgia's
Right.
NIL before all the NIL went kind of in-house and into the revenue sharing. So that's an interesting branch. How much does that matter, right? Because Classic City had to sign over those, I don't know, the rights to regain recoup what was lost. They had to sign that over to Georgia. And Georgia has to then, they're in charge of that. So, is it really just like Missouri's freshman class or this most recent portal class that signed revenue share agreements or contracts the way that Drink calls them? That's again, more things that we don't know that transparency would really help with, right? We need a college football spot track to maybe help us with some of these things. So yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of interesting things I think that can come out of this.
Well, the interesting part to me, Jason Franken says, either way, this case will set a precedent. I don't know. Do you think it will? You agree with that?
I think it has the potential to, right? Because you're either going to get Georgia to get him to arbitrate, okay, give us the money back. And that is going to be a shot to the rest of the college athletes and specifically college football players. Hey, man, if you're going to freely transfer like this, make sure you understand contract language and whatever it is you sign with schools and collectives and whatever the case, right? Or Wilson's lawyers are going to win. He's not going to pay Georgia a dime, and it's only going to get worse.
Oh. Well, and here's the other thing that's involved in all of this. And I'm not necessarily saying who's right, wrong, or indifferent, but we're dealing with somewhere between 18 and 22-year-olds, right? If you had somebody say to you I think Damon was about 20 when he signed this, maybe 19, say to you, hey, man, here's a deal that we're going to pay you $500,000 in the next 12 months. I am running to sign that damn thing. I don't know what I'm signing. I'm not reading it. I probably don't have a lawyer. I'm probably just going, yep, sign me up, baby, $500,000. So my point is this, his lawyer said something like, people are going to find out about how Georgia treated a student athlete. These schools still have power over these kids, right? And they are now offering all this money. And this is not meant as this is meant as a college student statement. None of them are in, almost none of them have ever dealt with sums of money like this before. I would be willing to bet half of them for agents have a buddy from home or their older brother or something. And how many national guys have you heard say these quote unquote agents in the NIL stuff, man, they're not even qualified to deal with this stuff, or they're taking more money from these. I don't know, man. This whole thing it seems a little shady. Now, good for the kids for getting this money, but like, I think there's a lot of things that come with getting this amount of money that a lot of these kids either don't understand or didn't know they were signing up for.
Well, and I think back to Drinkwitz's quote from National Signing Day or the early signing period last week, the thing that's not nearly celebrated anymore because, portal
Right.
and all that other jazz. But he said something specifically about, and this was part of an answer to a question about how different the process was this year, just with revenue sharing and official contracts and all that jazz. And he said, quote, "We're being asked to do what has never been done in the history of college football before. So we're all kind of learning at the same time. That's the way it goes." That's what I think when I think of like all of these superstar athletes, and Damon Wilson was a superstar athlete. He was a former 5-star guy, right? He went to Georgia first. And so like whoever his agent is, whether it's like official representation or a buddy from home that he trusts who's studying finance somewhere down the road, like that's, like we're all kind of learning, right? Like the NFL system, like the pro model that the NFL operates in and the NBA operates in and Major League Baseball operates in. Like those are models that, they've been collectively bargained, and there are rules and there are regulations, and, the expert agents know what they're doing. College football coaching, all that jazz. Those guys have agents, the Jimmy Sextons, the Clint Dowdles, all those guys, they know what they're doing. There's some form of collective bargaining there. When it comes to the athletes and having to deal with revenue sharing and, now in-house NIL and third-party deals and all this other jazz, like I don't think anybody has a clue what they're doing, right? So it's very possible that Damon maybe just signed that without official representation, which, if I'm now his representation, that opens up a whole host of other issues, right? Like that's
Right.
going to be something that if they get to arbitration, I'm not sure Georgia wants to go any further than that, right? And maybe that's why they're specifically asking for arbitration, right? Because if you're Georgia, I keep thinking too, like when you were able to get the suit last Friday and all I saw was a term sheet, my first thought was, all right, one, was there a contract? And two, if there was, what's in it that they don't want to be seen, right? And maybe that's just me being a little skeptical and, kind of throwing a side eye at Georgia, but I think it's a fair question. And that's again, maybe we get the answer, maybe we don't, but it's one of those interesting things that could possibly come out of this.
Well, I know you guys are here to talk about contracts and lawsuits and all that. We'll do that every week if you want to. We have one more chance to talk about a football game. I don't know, Virginia, Gator Bowl. Like my first thought was, yeah, that's about as good as it can get, man.
I'm intrigued by it. I mean, there's going to be a segment of Mizzou fans that are not going to be happy with me about what I'm about to say, but I'm not a bowl season person anymore. Like I think the playoffs need to expand, and I think bowl season ultimately needs to wither away and go off and retire and live a happy life after that. But for as long as we have them, I will say like this is intriguing. I'm intrigued by this matchup. It's one that we almost never get to see, right? This will be the second time ever that they get to play, that they have played. I think the last time they played was 1973, if I remember it correctly. I wrote it in the story, so I probably should remember it. But yeah, second all-time meeting. Virginia's a pretty good team, right? They won the ACC regular season title. They got to the ACC championship game. They lost a thriller to Duke in overtime. Like, Tony Elliott is up for a lot of National Coach of the Year awards. He's done a really fantastic job. Pretty good defense. Offense, maybe a little suspect, but they've had moments this year. Like it's a pretty good team. And, they get to play a Missouri team that wants to play one more time. Like I know Drinkwitz and even Veach today have talked about, if they win this game, that's 30 wins in 3 seasons. That's something that not a lot of other programs around the country, or even SEC programs, have been able to do. So there's intrigue in this game if you want to find the intrigue. And I know the first question people are going to ask is, who's playing, who's not. We don't know yet. We get to talk to Drink first thing tomorrow morning. So hopefully we'll gain a little bit of clarity on who's going to play. But knowing Drink's track record, I imagine most of the key guys will play in this game, but maybe not some of the heaviest hitters like the Damon Wilsons, like the Zion Youngs, like maybe some of those guys. But no, I mean, like for someone who is ready for the bowl season to die away, I am there is a level of intrigue in this matchup. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I haven't looked at all the bowl games. Like I'm not going to say this is the best one, but like I like it. It's a team you don't get to see a lot. It's a team that they are ranked in the top 20. They give you some, like you get a little juice out of beating them. Not maybe a ton, but hey, it's a ranked win. Something Missouri hasn't done this year. If you can get it. The most intriguing thing to me is I think it was probably going to, like, the expectation was that it was going to be Missouri, Georgia Tech. And I know that, like, in talking to people at Georgia Tech, like, they thought they were probably going to the Gator Bowl. And then Notre Dame
know
took
where-
its ball and went home.
I know where we're going. All right. This is good.
So I have a good friend who's a Notre Dame fan, and I talked to him for a while this morning, and I said, tell me how you feel about Notre Dame being quitters. And I think I talked again like 35 minutes later after he yelled at me and explained all the reasons that they were completely justified in doing it. He made some good points.
Did he?
Yeah. Look, I think they should go play the game, but I don't know. This is within their rights. If they don't want to play the game, cool. I find it interesting that, the thing is, like, the Big 12 is fining Kansas State and Iowa State $500,000. Who's going to fine Notre Dame? Like, there is nobody to fine Notre Dame.
I think it's incredibly weak shit. Like, I'm sorry,
I don't
Mom,
like
if you're
it.
watching, but
I don't like it.
It's weak. There's the meme going around where instead of play like a champion today, the sign was transformed into we're going home because we're whining. Like, that's
right.
Look, and I get it. You're upset. And I totally understand why Notre Dame fans are upset at the College Football Playoff Committee. They were strung along all month long that they were more or less safe.
It was a TV show. That's the problem, is the TV show, not the rankings or who they put in. It's the TV show.
I understand why they're mad and salty about that. And hey, you know what? Like, the one thing I will give Notre Dame credit is apparently they put the team to the vote and said, do we want to go play a bowl game? And the team said no. So, okay, I'm glad they made that decision collectively. But man, that is still weak. Like, you're missing out on another, 10 to 15 practices where you get to just bond and be together. You have an opportunity.
That's so overrated. That's the most overrated thing about bowl season to me.
I think there are actually a lot of players that get to benefit from that. So that's, like there are other teams that missed out on the playoff that are still going through their bowl season. BYU, Vanderbilt, Texas, like teams that may have had loose cases, maybe not a case as strong as Notre Dame's. But even then, I would argue that Notre Dame maybe didn't have as strong of a case as they thought they did. That's a different conversation. I just think it's incredibly weak for them to be like, we didn't get exactly what we wanted or what we thought we were getting. And so we're just not going to participate in the postseason whatsoever.
I agree. Let me ask you this. If the situation was reversed, do you think Miami would have played a bowl game?
I'd like to think so, but I really don't know.
I think they would have. I think they would have.
Because
like, it's real easy for us to
quit when things don't go my way.
My favorite one on social media was the scene from Rudy where all the guys go and turn in their jerseys. That was a good one. But Aaron Kate says join a conference and quit whining. That's the thing. They don't have to. Like, why?
I think it was have to. I think and they especially don't have to now moving forward, because I think it was Ross Dellinger from Yahoo that reported this, that they signed a new memo of understanding that I think starting next year, because they're still negotiating if they're going to keep it at 12-team playoff, if they're going to expand it to 14, 16, whatever. But if Notre Dame is in the top 12, no matter what, they signed, literally it's part of the CFP deal that if they're in the top 12 at the end of the season, they are in the field, no matter what.
That is why they do things like this, because you want to say you aren't special, but college football continues to tell them they are special. Like I say all the time when athletes get arrested, right? Like people are like, why can't they follow the rules? And I say, because they've lived their whole lives with people telling them they don't have to. Yeah. Because they can run fast and jump high. Notre Dame has lived its entire college football life not having to live by the same rules as everyone else. And I'm not saying they're right. I'm not saying I like what they're doing. But they act entitled because college football has told them they are entitled for the last 90 years or whatever. That they're different than everybody else and that they're special. So that's why they act that way. Now, here's the one thing. I think it was Michael Brenlinger maybe had a comment that Vandy didn't take its ball and go home. And I think, I don't know if you retweeted it or sent to me Clark Lee's comments today, was basically Clark Lee was asked what his message to the team was. And his message to the team was, we needed to do more. Like, we could have done more and we'd be playing. And it's very fair for you to be angry. It's very fair for you to be disappointed. but like this was in our control. And I saw Pete Sampson, who has covered Notre Dame for a long time. He works for The Athletic now, wrote a column today. He said, who's to blame for Notre Dame not getting in? He said, ESPN, the ACC, the system, and yes, also the Fighting Irish. Like, that's what I want to see out of Marcus Freeman. I want to see a comment from Marcus Freeman that says, look, this is what our team decided to do. I don't really give a shit if you like it or not. It's what we decided. But also, we do acknowledge that there was a path there. If we would have beaten Miami or if we would have beaten Notre Dame, or I'm sorry, beaten A&M, this is not a conversation. Like, there was something in our control that we could have done to avoid this.
There was more that was in their control. Like, you talk about like college football treating these guys like they're the precious golden child, like no pun intended because of their helmets, but like they're the only team in the country that dictates all 12 of their games.
Sort of. So they recently, a few years ago, went into this scheduling agreement with the ACC, right? Like the rest of their teams are in the ACC and football is independent, but they have a scheduling agreement where they play X number of ACC teams every year. And the one thing about their schedule is the ACC kind of screwed them in multiple ways. First of all, because the ACC is trash. Like the ACC did not, they gave them one good team to play. That one good team did beat them. But, like normally, if you could get another ranked game or two out of that ACC agreement, that would help. Also, Boise was not as good as Boise usually is. That might have normally helped a little bit. But I agree. Like, yes, they could have scheduled tougher. But like I said, I want Marcus Freeman to come out and say, look, this is the decision we made, and I don't care what you think about it. But yes, there are things we could do that would change it. And Scott Fitz says we went from arguing about undefeated teams to teams with 2 or 3 losses. Yeah, that's what happens when you let more teams in the playoff, which I don't understand anybody who thinks this is worse. Like anybody who wants to argue that it was better when we just randomly picked 2 teams to play for a national title and sometimes they couldn't even play each other. No, this is way better. Like, we're always going to argue whether it's over team 13 or 25 or 96, whatever. Unless you let everybody in, we're always going to have arguments. But this is better.
Yeah, because it gives more teams who probably deserve a shot to win the national championship a legitimate shot to win the national championship. Now, some years, like this year, for example, like we can argue how many teams actually are deserving of an opportunity to win the national championship. But there are more to, like, if Notre Dame's the only team that misses and maybe they're deserving to win a national championship or having the opportunity to win a national championship, maybe they're not. I don't know. That's up for debate. Like, if only one team's left out as opposed to 4 or 5 most years that are left out when it was just the 4-team field, I'm going to sleep just fine at night because more of the teams that deserve a chance than not will have that chance over the next month.
Texas is playing the Citrus Bowl, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. Like, I don't like what they did. Whatever. But again, the spoiled little rich kid acts spoiled for a reason. He's had a different set of rules his whole life. Notre Dame has had a different set of rules its entire life in college football. That's why it acts the way it does. Bill, if we can go back real quick, I know Scott Fitz had an earlier super chat. I want to make sure we get to it during the football portion of the show. Not that one. It was way back at the beginning. You're going to have to scroll back to the start. Maybe it's on the start comments. But any word on transfers or bowl opt-outs? Okay. Cody answered the opt-out part. The transfers will come out. Here's the good thing. Like, I was just thinking, it was this day last year when the portal opened. It was the Monday after Selection Sunday. The good thing about this schedule is all these kids can go to the bowl game. They can get their trip to Florida. They can get their whatever it is, taxes done for free. That would actually be valuable now. That is what TaxSlayer should give out and they should give out free accounting services for your NIL deals. But they can either play the game, stand on the sidelines, do whatever, and they don't have to enter the portal yet. Like they can go through this. So there will probably be a couple more announcements, but I think for the most part, we're going to get through this trip and this game on December 27th before we see a big flood of announcements from Missouri kids.
Yeah, well, I'll be able to come back from the bowl game, enjoy my New Year's Eve, and then when the portal opens at midnight on January 2nd, that's where we'll kind of lock in with my blue light glasses because I'm going to be staring at a screen every single day for 2 weeks trying to figure out what the roster is going to look like.
Yeah, I have a feeling actually on December 28th, when you're flying home, I'm going to be dealing with a decent number of announcements.
That's why I took the early flight home so I could land and we can go to work.
A few years ago, Connor Bazelak, dude, he may have transferred before Missouri's plane landed from the bowl game. I mean, I think he might have done it from the tarmac, man. So it happens. All right, overall, and hopefully Drew will pop in here pretty soon. I'd like to get Drew. I'm trying to delay the overall college football playoff talk until he gets in here, but anything stick out to you on other than, first of all, they get it right? Do you think Miami should be in and Notre Dame should be out?
Yeah, 100%. I think the committee nailed that. And because the games have to matter, the results of the games have to matter. I don't care if it's week 1 or week 15, the results have to matter. And Miami beat Notre Dame head to head. It's if you do the whole resume comparison, team A has this, team B has this, but team B beat team A, everything else doesn't matter. That's the result matters. People want it decided on the field. Miami decided it on the field. I don't care that it was week 0 or week 1 or whatever it was. So yeah, I think they got that right. I think there was, and Cody covered Alabama. This is an Alabama mention, but I think a lot of people were arguing about the whole Alabama, Miami, Notre Dame when I'm not sure that was the argument at all. I think the Alabama was in a separate tier. I think they were safe going into the SEC tournament weekend. I think they could have lost that game 40-0. And I don't know that anything would have changed. I think the real argument was more about the bubble teams, which was Miami, Notre Dame. And I think honestly, BYU was also in that conversation as well, because if they would have found a way to win the Big 12, they're automatically in. And then we're not
Miami and Notre Dame are both out.
Yeah. And so I think so maybe in that case, in hindsight, Notre Dame was probably screwed no matter what. But I think those were two separate playoff conversations.
So look, I agree. Ultimately, they got the right 10 teams in. So that part is separate. The TV show. So you mentioned Bama. You know when I knew Alabama was in the playoff?
When they beat Georgia on the road?
Was last Tuesday when the committee moved Alabama up to number 9 ahead of Notre Dame after beating Auburn. And I told everybody, I said, that is telling you they're protecting them from losing to Georgia next week. What they're allowing them is we gave ourselves a 1-spot margin for error. If they lose to Georgia, we can drop them down a spot, which, by the way, they didn't do, which was weird. But Alabama was in the field during that show a week ago.
Yes. And I think, too, is that the SEC championship game was an opportunity for Alabama to move up. That's all it was. Because I think they
could have moved up to 4.
Yes, and it was because they were already in the field. So I think if they would have beaten Georgia a second time, they could have been the 4 seed. They could have gotten a first round bye, or I think that's ultimately how it would have broke out. But they didn't, and so you're in the field, fine. But now you have to go on the road. That was what you get for losing the SEC championship game. And so people were like, "Oh, this SEC championship game didn't matter." It's no, I think it did, just not in the way that I think people think it should have mattered. And so there's those are two different things there. And so, yeah, I agree with you. When they moved Alabama up ahead of Notre Dame, I kind of thought Notre Dame was screwed from the get-go on that penultimate ranking show. It was either BYU wins and they're in and we don't have the Notre Dame Miami discussion, or BYU gets bounced by Texas Tech. And then you've got Notre Dame, Miami next to each other in the rankings. And that's when head-to-head ultimately took precedent. So I understand why Notre Dame.
Pop Drew on the screen for this too. We'll go 3-way. All right. What you just said, was what I was going to mention. So last week, the committee chairman, Hunter Yurachek, who, by the way, is basically universally thought of as doing a terrible job so far as Arkansas's AD. So I'm glad he's in charge of the whole thing. But he said on that show a week ago, well, when they're next to each other in the rankings, that's when we talk about head-to-head. And I don't know who it was, but I saw somebody retweet it, and the quote tweet was, That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. And I completely, like, why does head-to-head not matter when Notre Dame's 9 and Miami's 11, but it matters if they're 10 and 11? That doesn't make any sense. If head-to-head matters, like, this whole idea of they need to be back-to-back. No, if Notre Dame was a better team Tuesday night, then Notre Dame was a better team Sunday morning. My only problem with this whole thing has been the committee told you for 6 weeks Notre Dame's better than Miami, and 0 things changed. And then they woke up Sunday morning and said, no, Miami's better than Notre Dame.
Well, I think the thing about the committee that we've learned is that they lie. They
lie on TV.
And they play by their own rules, right? Like that's like, because you got to remember at the time that the first rankings came out, Miami had lost like 2 of 3. And so like the committee's very reactionary. And so Miami was sitting at like 6-2 or whatever it was. And they were like 18th. And Notre Dame had the same 6-2 record because they lost 2 of their first 3 games and then rattled off a bunch of wins over nobodies. And so they were sitting up at like, 13, 12, something like that. And so over the course of the month, teams lose, Miami wins, Miami closes the gap. And so you could argue that they shouldn't have been that far apart, but like the committee is very reactionary and it takes them a month to kind of correct themselves. And so but they play by their own rules. And so
they are so reactionary that they reacted to Notre Dame and Miami literally sitting on their couches on this weekend. They just changed it based on Miami did way better couch sitting, I think, on Saturday than Notre Dame. Drew, would you support Texas quitting football and not playing in a bowl game because they didn't make the playoff?
I think that's lame, personally. I think I know bowl games have no meaning anymore, especially with the playoff. But like, go play another game, have fun. Like, treat it like an NBA All-Star game and just put up 200 points on the scoreboard. Like, nobody's gonna take it seriously, but go play the game. Like, who cares?
Yeah. So, did they get it right? Like, are the right teams in this thing?
Shoot. I didn't know this was what I was coming on for.
They are.
Come on, basketball guy. What you got?
Yeah, I think that for the most part, they got it right. I do love that we got like the maximum chaos bracket where both Tulane and James Madison got in over the ACC champion. Like, I thought that was exactly that was like precisely why I loved the 12 team format, was because this exact scenario can happen. I would love to see one of them knock off Oregon or Ole Miss just to stand up and make a case for mid-majors even more. But I don't think that's going to happen. We'll see. But yeah, I think they got the bracket right.
It's not going to happen, but I want a James Madison Tulane national title game.
Yeah.
I would be the only person to watch that. I think they got it right within the constraints of the rules that they currently have, right? Are James Madison and Tulane 2 of the 12 best teams in the country? No, but here's my problem with college football. This is going to cause another change. College football doesn't give anything 2 or 3 years to see if it works. They do something, people get pissed off, and they go, oh, we got to change that tomorrow. And then people just get pissed off about a different thing. Like, maybe we could give something a couple years before we decide it needs to go away because somebody got mad about it.
I don't know. I like people being upset just immediately and wanting to fix it because I don't know.
Right, but then they change it and like they just cause new problems.
Well, I mean, we had the 4-team playoff for a decade before we jumped to 12, and then we jumped to 12, and Boise State got a bye, and everybody's like, absolutely not. Let's just give the best, the top 4 teams a bye, which I'm in agreement. I have no issue with the teams that got the byes.
Right, but now James Madison and Tulane are in, and I promise there's going to be a rule to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Yeah, I mean, when Oregon bullies James Madison and wins 50-0, like, yeah, people are going to be like, oh, should we have the G5 teams in this? Yet, see, like, Girl Panther gets it.
Okay, but here's the thing.
But like who complains that the 16 seed gets run off the court by the 1 seed? Who cares?
No, I mean, that's a fair argument.
Nobody.
That's a fair argument.
Plus, like, I'm just going to throw it out there again. Like, I personally think the gap between the Power 5s and the G5s is shrinking. And we might end up with the year where we get a 16 team beating a 1 seed, like we have seen in the NCAA tournament in basketball, right? Like that UCF team from a decade ago that beat Auburn and went undefeated. Like that's a team that would have made some noise in the playoffs. I think like that would have been a fun matchup to watch. And so I personally, I like it when there's this kind of chaos and the mid majors get a fair shake out of it.
I would say it's unlikely it happens, but like it took 34 years or 33 years to happen in the NCAA tournament, right? There were some I remember watching Princeton, Georgetown, and just being absolute. I think it was probably before either one of you guys was born, but absolutely glued to the television, thinking a 16 could be the one. Kansas trailed a 16 at one point, and I was not emotionally invested in that one at all. So it's not likely. I know it's not probably going to happen. If it happens once, though, like that's enough. Like there's App State, Michigan is the reason these teams still schedule these FCS games, right? I think they're dumb, but the excuse is, well, remember that one time? It can happen. So, that's all it takes is one time.
I also think it's more on the ACC for having their tiebreakers constructed in such a way that you leave Miami out of the conversation, out of the championship game. Like, how did they let Duke get in there? I don't understand that at all.
It's too many teams, right? Like a lot of this year's college football playoff issues have to do with college realignment, right? Like look at the ACC, like there are 17 teams and all the teams that tied for second behind Virginia, none of them played each other, right? Like that's how you get Duke getting into the ACC championship game and then winning it, which, shout out to Duke. That was awesome. That was a fun game to watch. But like, that's how you let that happen, right? And so that ultimately blocks out. I mean, ultimately that blocked out Notre Dame, right? Because that allowed James Madison to get in and, away we go. So I don't know. It's
like Wetzel said a couple years ago on their podcast, like the chaos is not a bug. It's like, it's a function of college.
Feature,
this is part of a feature. Yes. This is part of it. This is why we love this sport, because it's so absolutely stupid. Like I can watch the NFL and like I know who's getting in the playoff and it makes sense and there's mathematical reasons and like the worst team's probably not usually beating the best team and all that. I don't know what the hell's going to happen in college football. Like that's why I like it, because it's not the NFL. So give me all the idiocy and the chaos and the arguments. I like all of them.
Well, speaking of idiocy, here's an idea I'll float out there. How about instead of one big college football playoff show every week, we just have every conference do a college football playoff show every week, right? And the ACC can be like, look, Miami's number 1, Virginia 2, Duke 3. SEC, they'll say Georgia
they
1.
Can do their own seeding.
Yeah, exactly, right? Because that's all we need, right? Is more content about how the playoff teams stack up.
I'm here for it. I would watch none of it, but I would watch Twitter after it.
Exactly.
Anyhow, Cody, before we let you go, man, any Mizzou basketball hot takes about the wonderful week they just had?
They need something. They don't have an easy button. You know how like I love talking about easy buttons when it came to Missouri's offense and how you just need those easy plays to find easy yardage. Like Missouri needs a go-to easy button bucket getter on offense, because boy, they did not have one this past week when they needed one.
They've got one. He got double teamed all day on Sunday.
Triple teamed.
No, triple teamed at times. Yeah, but all right, Cody, appreciate it, man. Everybody go check out his stuff on the contract. Got more coming. We'll let you go a few minutes early, man.
Enjoy the sad basketball discussion, because after last week, I imagine it's not going to be very happy.
Yeah, Gabe, can we keep talking about college football instead?
I will say this. I'll say this on my way out. Drew has extended his lead in our SEC pick'em. I haven't sent the email out yet, but he's got a 3-game lead on the field. But Gabe also overtook me for second because I swung and missed on a lot of conference title game picks. So I'm hoping bowl games pull me out of. I'm not in the basement. I'm in the middle of the pack. But Drew's in the driver's seat of our pick'em challenge. So
everybody buried me.
Have we decided what the winner gets for winning the pool this year?
We
Or have
came
we
up
just-
with something good, and I promptly forgot it.
Well,
we've had a few, like one, maybe I'll throw this out to everybody that's listening, but the couple of ideas that I enjoyed is that like what last place has to eat Dr.
Dr.
Pepper
Pepper
soap
Oh yeah, the
nuggets
Dr.
on the
Pepper
show.
nuggets. I did like that one.
I think that was good. The other one that I enjoyed, and maybe this is just me being a book nerd, is that whoever wins has to pick a book that the other four have to read and then write a book report on the board on that book.
okay.
I don't know if we want to do that, but hey,
That's hard. That's hard. Well, it's not bad though. We'll definitely
Okay.
we gotta before bowl season. We gotta iron something out.
Yeah.
we'll get that finalized. But Drew,
Okay.
the basketball guy among us is in the driver's seat of the football pick'em challenge. So here we go. Which means I'm probably
Oh.
going to win the March Madness pool. Just saying.
Right.
Dro Panther in the chat says winner gets ownership of Power Mizzou.
Droll Panther, you and me got to talk. You got
Ooh.
terrible ideas. We're banning Droll Panther from the chat quickly.
we just passed the majority, like the ownership of the company around like a championship belt. Like it's
Yeah. Here's the deal. You guys can have ownership. I still have 51%. So my 51%.
He still has veto
Everybody has a-
power.
Everybody has a vote. Mine just counts more. So
all
right, man.
Las Vegas Uno trip. I'm in.
okay, we can look at it.
There we go. Yes.
That has to be funded by everybody else.
Y'all heard
Like, it can't just be funded by me. That's all these
Oh.
ideas are just screwing me, basically.
You can write it off though, right? Like that's tax
Yeah.
deductible.
Exactly.
I don't know if I can
It's
write
a
off
team bonding
gambling. I haven't-
experience. That's all I'm seeing.
I haven't tried to write off gambling yet, so we'll see how it goes.
It's not gambling. It's a team bonding experience.
Yeah, and
Okay.
it's an investment.
Yeah. How do I know that I can trust Drew if I don't go play Uno with him in Vegas?
All right.
Exactly.
Cody, go away before you guys get me in trouble with my accountant. All right, so the laughing's over. We're talking basketball now.
I have a
Serious faces, sad times. That sucked, Drew.
so this is the bad time to pull out the party popper.
No, I mean, you can do it. It seems
Okay.
inappropriate, but if
Alright.
you want to.
I'm just By the way, I think-
it is. By the way, it is now stuck on your camera. Okay,
Yeah,
there you go. Now I can see you good. That was solid.
I think I've got
No, that
three of
was-
those left.
That was terrible.
Yeah, that was I mean, I think I texted you out of the game. Like the good news is this trip isn't a total loss. I can get Whataburger on the way home. Like
Right.
that was kind of how I felt about leaving the arena.
I want backup that I texted you at halftime that it was ball game.
Yeah. You
Like
you
as soon as
absolutely
that
did.
three went down, it was over.
Yeah, and I felt a pretty similar way. Like that three was killer for them because they were in it up until those last 4 minutes, and that three took them out of it for sure. Everybody in the chat is talking about we need to talk about the Drew King factor.
So I want to address that. Here's the thing, man. The games Drew goes on the road for are the good games, right? Like he's not going for the crappy SEC road games because like we got to pick and choose what's worth traveling to. So he tends to go to the games that we believe are going to be more interesting and more competitive. So that does partially explain your 1-27 record or whatever it is away from Mizzou Arena.
And you know, Gabe, like I've been to some wins too. Like it's not all I was
You were
there.
at an NCAA tournament win. You made it
Mhm.
to the SEC tournament semifinals. Like,
Mhm.
yeah,
I was in the building when Greenlight Golston hit the buzzer beater over Tennessee. Like I've had some good wins on my resume, but like Mizzou, I've also had some bad losses.
yeah, no question. So, like, hey, the DKF I feel like is definitely in the negative after a 20-point loss, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that moves them into the I think they were like +8 after the Notre Dame loss, so this is
Okay.
definitely dragging it down to the negatives.
Scott Fitz describes this team as well as I've seen it. The team can score but can't shoot. And like that sounds weird, but it's kind of accurate.
Yeah, and I don't know, man. It's I don't want to say it's by design, but I think Dennis Gates went into this offseason really valuing the free throw shooting and the physicality around the rim more than he did adding some perimeter shooting. And the free throws haven't
right. Point of order. He wants a team that can get to the free throw line, and he has one. They can't make them. Like they're bad at free throw shooting.
Correct. And on top of that, like haven't been great at 3-point shooting either since Jaden Stone got hurt. So how do they get points on the board?
Also bad apparently at layup shooting. Well, did you see what they were yesterday on layups?
No, I didn't.
9 for 24.
Yeah.
They missed 3 on one possession. Honor Boateng missed at least 2 by himself.
Well, okay, I'll throw this out there. Like Kansas is a top 5 team in blocks this year. Floyd Badunga and I forget the other big's name. Bryson Tiller. Like they're both really good rim protectors. They've got a lot of size there. They're really athletic. Like Floyd Badunga sent multiple balls.
9 for 24, dude.
Swatted into the stands. And so like that was one of the things I wrote about in my preview was like if they're going to win this game, you have to make those twos, and they definitely didn't yesterday. But so here was the point I was gonna make though, Gabe, is like you want this team that shoots a bunch, that gets to the line and shoots a lot of free throws. But then you also complain that you're not getting enough calls, which is valid. Like the refs swallowed their whistle a lot yesterday, but like, is Mizzou ever going to get all of those calls that Dennis Gates wants? Because I'm not completely convinced. Yeah, like, so was that the right move to go with a team that's really physical and drives to the rim and has a hard time getting to the line without like the cachet of being one of the better basketball teams in the country?
Well, and I'm kind of with the people on the board who said, I don't want to hear about calls after a 20-point loss, man.
Yeah.
Like there weren't enough calls to change that result. They don't exist. You know, now the Notre Dame game, if you want to pick out a couple calls, which was valid, okay. But like, I don't know that I can't find enough bad calls to make up a 20-point loss in which you looked uninterested most of the second half.
Exactly. So that is what I kind of view as the biggest issue with this group right now is A, you can't shoot threes, and B, you're never going to get to the free throw line enough to overcome what the percentage has been so far this year. I think they're at 68% right now.
Yeah.
So that makes it really difficult for Mizzou to be a top 10 offense, which it kind of needs to be to overcome what it's been on defense this year.
Yeah. We've got a question about the redshirt rules, and the redshirt rules are basically if you play, you can't redshirt.
Correct.
That's why Aaron Rowe hasn't played. Like if he steps foot on the court in a game, he isn't
redshirted.
It's why is basketball not changed? Because like football, you can play in 4 of the 12. Why has basketball not gone to you can play in 7 games or something?
Like it's been talked about, it just hasn't been approved yet. And I know that Dennis Gates, I asked him about it like 2 years ago. He said he's a fan of that idea. But I don't know why it hasn't been, to be honest. Only way
largely power conference schools don't really use red shirts. Like if you're in college for 5 years at this level, like that's probably not a great thing most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But you know,
the only way Aaron Rowe would be able to get a red shirt if he played this year was if he like immediately got injured and then had to sit out the rest of the season.
Hey, we've seen it happen, baby. You know, we got Caleb Grill an extra year. So yeah, it's I don't know. Red shirts in general don't come into play very often in basketball, but that's the deal. Like if he plays, the red shirt's gone. That's why you haven't seen him. And Dennis is never going to say out loud that he's redshirting. I'm sure. No. I don't even think we've asked, but
I haven't bothered to.
Right. We did this thing with Trent Burns last year. We asked him like 19 games in a row if Trent Burns was redshirting, and he never said that, but he redshirted. So
same with Caleb Grill.
Yeah, yeah. Mizzou on top is asking if Trent Pierce is going to redshirt. Look, I kind of think it's possible. And I did. What was the game that I came over and didn't watch the game, but like I was trying to find Moon Choi?
It was South Carolina State.
South Carolina State. So I was at that game, and I want to be clear. This is like somebody I know that's just a fan. This is not somebody at Missouri. But they said, hey, man, I heard Trent Pierce is going to redshirt. Have you heard that? I said, well, I just heard it just now. That was the first time I'd heard it, but we're getting close, man. We're getting close to the point where I think you have to think about it.
Well, and the lack of details on what the injury actually is.
People have said it's a hip. I don't know exactly where they've seen that, but like I know Tom Hart didn't have any details on the broadcast. Like apparently it's been reported somewhere. I honestly don't know exactly where.
Well, it's been speculated on our board. Somebody, so an insider reported it. On the board.
So it hasn't been like written by anybody.
Correct.
Gotcha.
And Dennis Gates has never said it's a hip. They've always just listed it as a lower body injury. But like that's why I think there's so much speculation about whether he's going to play or not this year is because like we don't know how severe it actually is. We've gotten zero details about it.
I'm not sure they know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure they know. Like I don't have any problem with the way he's handled injuries the last couple of weeks. I think he's been fairly forthcoming. I truly don't think they know.
Well, it's because guys are healthy now. I mean,
but like he said, he told us when guys were going to start playing, and he's told us Pierce isn't I mean, he said last week, like, I'm waiting on doctors, and Pierce hasn't practiced. I mean, I'm following doctor's advice. That's all he can do. Somebody's asking how much Trent Burns is going to play, and like, guys, obviously not too much, I think, but also like we can't do another year of, hey, maybe Trent Burns is the savior here. Like we did this last year for reasons I didn't understand.
You're right.
And now that we've actually seen him on the floor, like we can't do it, man. We can't do it. It's not true. If he was the savior, he would be playing.
I think there's a path where he plays more at some point, but I think right now he's on a minutes restriction. I think they are going to be really cautious with him about easing him into the physicality of the game. Like you can't afford another setback with that foot. So I think that they're going to treat him with kid gloves for a while before they start really letting him and throwing him to the wolves.
And like if he could go out there and make a Zach Edey type difference, they would do it. Like they would play him. And I don't think
he's not there yet. Not quite.
Right. Doesn't mean he sucks. Doesn't mean he's not going to get there. But
I will say, like,
it's not there yet.
It's great to see him out there. I thought, like, he hadn't done anything that makes me say, like, oh, he can't play. I haven't seen that from him yet. But he also hadn't really gotten that opportunity.
Right. So this just kind of occurred to me. Like, what's Missouri's best lineup now? Let's assume when Jaden Stone comes back, what is Missouri's best five?
So it's still Ant Robinson. Like, they don't have anybody that can replace him, especially on defense. So it's Ant Robinson at point. I think it's probably Jaden Stone when he gets back. It's got to be Jacob Cruz. It has to be Mark Mitchell, and then pick anybody at the five. Like, I don't know that it's made a big difference when Sean Phillips is on the floor versus Luke Northweather versus Javon Porter. Like, they're all pretty interchangeable, nondescript big men. I haven't seen anything that makes me say, like, oh, they have to play this guy more this year.
Try this one on. Their best five doesn't include any of those guys.
Okay.
And I could go two ways. Ant, Stone, Boateng, Cruz, Mitchell. Because like Honor plays defense, and he can rebound. And he's not a shooter, but he can help things out. Or The other way I could go is, I mean, Mitchell Cruz and Ant are like, and I think Stone are honestly
The 4.
not arguable. The other one I'd entertain is T.O. Barrett at point, moving Ant over to the 2.
Okay.
I either Ant with Honor Boateng or Ant at the 2 with T.O. Barrett at the point. I think that's Missouri's best. I think Missouri's best lineup clearly does not include a big man, and it does not include Sebastian Mack.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there, Gabe. The only issue is, like, we saw what Mizzou with Mark Mitchell at center looked like last year. And it was pretty rough. Like, they had some real struggles stopping teams getting to the rim at the end of the year. And that's kind of what cost them, and then how it kind of all unraveled late in the season. So
That's fair.
and like, they spent all offseason touting about how they've got one of the biggest teams in the country. And if you're immediately going to throw that away and go to small ball, like, that's a rough
Not
look.
immediately. We're a third of the way through the season, man. I've seen it.
Yeah.
What have you seen out of any of those guys that tells you they're going to be the answer in the SEC?
Nothing. Not a thing.
Exactly. That's exactly. So, like, it's back to, this is a terrible week, man. Like, I assume they'll win both these games by a lot of points.
Yeah, that's pretty fair to assume. Like, Ken Palm's got them at 97% chance to win against Alabama State and 95% against Bethune Cookman. If they lose one of these games, the season's over. Period.
Right. For sure. Also, it's so weird. After Sunday, they play one game in 20 days. Like, I don't think I've ever seen the schedule like this without a post-Christmas game.
Yeah. And they just kind of valued having that extra week break between bragging rights and the start of SEC play this year for whatever reason. Because usually there's at least
I
one
value
more.
it.
Yeah, same here. But gonna be a little stressed for content during those 3 weeks.
It's gonna. Hey, we got bowl game portal.
Mhm.
We're good, man. We got you
Okay.
covered, at least for part of it. So, all right. Well, I know you had a long day yesterday. By the way, I did get multiple compliments about the arcade background yesterday. So,
Oh, excellent.
Well,
Did
if
you get any
set
more
up an
people?
arcade in your house, it'll be amazing.
Did you get any more people calling me mad cute?
No more of that. No more of
Dang.
that. I forgot. I blocked that out of my mind. I forgot that happened. So
It's too bad.
yeah. All right, man. Appreciate you. Appreciate all you guys watching. Got to remind you to get in touch with our friend James Carlton at State Farm Insurance, Webster Groves, Missouri. CarltonInsurance.net is the website. If you go to the Google reviews, I hear there are many, many, many of them that rate James Carlton as a 5-star insurance agent. I would personally give him 5 stars. I don't think I've done that online, but I just text him. I'm like, dude, 5 stars for my insurance payment this month. So if you guys sign up, 314-961-4800, you don't even have to sign up. Just get a quote, give him a call, let him run the numbers by you, and hopefully he can save you money. Appreciate you hanging out. Like, comment, share, subscribe, do all those things. And we'll talk to you next time.